This conference will now be
Okay.
recorded.
Now the recording is in progress. So I think we can start the scenario. The first patient whom we have put there, 58-year-old male who is a smoker. Duration of cough is always cough. So this is scenario is about cough. So cough for 3 years, gradual onset and progressive. It is productive and he produces around 5 teaspoons a day. Mucoid, white in color. It is not foul smelling, not admixed with any blood. Often it gets aggravated in the winter season, winter months, and he feels relatively better during summer, associated with breathlessness on exertion. Okay. A cough scenario is a little easy to discuss if it is straightforward, but at the same time, it may be very atypical also. So that is the challenge with cough. Unlike chest pain, where most are reasonably typical, a small proportion is atypical, cough diagnosis can be very much atypical. So what could be the diagnosis of patient 1? COPD, chronic bronchitis. Very good. So that's a better COPD with asthma. Chronic bronchitis. Most of you have told chronic bronchitis. Okay. What is the characteristic feature in this scenario which makes you think that it is chronic bronchitis? Most characteristic thing, smoker. Okay, smoker is just a risk factor. Smokers may develop also other lung diseases. Duration, anything else more? I agree, duration, because it's a chronic bronchitis is a diagnosis. So it's a breathlessness, sputum, seasonal variation, foul smelling. No, it's not foul smelling actually. Duration of symptom production. Okay. See, one thing it is very clear is over 3 years. So what additional question you will ask the patient? Ask what additional, some information is missing in that scenario. No relevant. How many episodes? History of asthma. Months. Okay. So before 2 months consecutive, Gayatri has put it good. So before thinking that it could be chronic bronchitis, we need to confirm whether the sputum production is actually following a recurrent pattern and how many months he has it. See, if he tells that it is there only for about 10 days in a year and it keeps repeating after then it's not going to be any significant information. So I think when he tells 3 years, you have to ask two things. One, how many months in a year you are getting this symptom, and is that recurring or not? Okay. So the first thing is relatively straightforward. So we have put it as chronic bronchitis. Okay. Now going to the second scenario, patient 19 years female having the problem for 7 months. Cough is gradual onset. It keeps recurs, mostly dry. Occasionally it is scanty sputum, which is mucoid is present. It is white and not admixed with blood. Aggravating factors of winter months, occurs late in the night, and dust and exercise are precipitating factors. It improves as the day improves associated with wheezing. So what are the possible reasons for bronchial asthma? Okay. Okay, most of you agree that it is bronchial asthma. Now, why you think it is bronchial asthma? What is the most characteristic feature that it is bronchial asthma? Wheezing, there is a pattern of diurnal variation, very good. Seasonal variation, nocturnal cough, occurs in the night and the winter months. Fine. Okay. So now I have just put you the two broad categories of chronic cough. One is chronic bronchitis, another is bronchial asthma. Okay. Now, what will be the characteristic difference between bronchial asthma and COPD? Both are chronic airway diseases. Both are chronic airway diseases. Okay, one is reversibility of the bronchospasm. So bronchial asthma, it is a reversible bronchial obstruction, whereas in COPD, it is some degree of irreversibility will be present. Okay. Anything else? Any other difference? Any other difference? History wise, is there any other difference? Age of onset, very good. So chronic obstructive pulmonary disease often occurs in smokers beyond the fifth decade or beyond that only they developed it, whereas bronchial asthma is a problem in relatively children, adolescents, young adults. It can also occur in late adulthood or elderly, but commonly it occurs at a younger age. Any other difference? So there are many responses you have put. Diurnal variation, risk factors, age of presentation. Okay, Chandani Agarwal, what do you mean by diurnal variation? Chandani Agarwal, what do you mean by the diurnal variation? Do you mean that COPD will not have diurnal variation? Asthma will have increased nocturnal aggravation. Okay, fine. Now, basically, they are very similar. It's very difficult to sometimes identify COPD and bronchial asthma when the age is higher. So when they come at 50 years, they are also smokers. Then it becomes relatively difficult to really diagnose. Okay, so the most important characteristic difference will be what is the symptom in between episodes. Okay, bronchial asthma, in between episodes, they will not have any breathlessness at all. They will be able to do the activity normally. They will not have any problem at all. Completely subsides bronchial asthma. Whereas COPD, even though the cough subsides, there will be some amount of breathlessness and exertion for the individual because due to irreversibility of the bronchospasm, they may have some amount of effort intolerance. But otherwise, it may be, and the diurnal variation and even seasonal variation may not be that characteristics. Though I have put that relieving factor is summer months, most of the patients with chronic bronchitis will have some amount of symptom even during summer months. So it is present almost all through the year. Of course, it will dominate during about 2 to 4 months. So that is the characteristic difference. Okay. Now, one quick question before we go into the what respiratory disease smoking cause other than chronic bronchitis, other than COPD, lung carcinoma. Emphysema is a spectrum only. Emphysema is a spectrum of chronic bronchitis, carcinoma lung. Any other disease other than carcinoma of the lung? Any other disease? Okay, smokers are more prone for infection. Swaminathan, I agree. Any other primary respiratory disease? Very good. Interstitial lung disease. Okay. So there is a type of interstitial pneumonia which can occur in smokers. So you need to remember that also. So smoking is not only a risk factor for COPD and lung carcinoma, it is also a risk factor for interstitial lung disease. Okay. Going on to the third case. So 22-year-old male, duration of cough is only 4 days, acute in onset, not progressive, it's static, predominantly dry, no aggravating factor, no relieving factor. Patient also has fever and throat pain. So what could be this cough? Patient pharyngitis. Okay. See why you think it is? See, some have put viral pharyngitis, some have put bacterial pharyngitis. What explains why you think it's a viral pharyngitis?
Sir.
Dry cough. So dry cough occurs in okay. Oh, so the fact that okay. Now patient 3, one thing is very clear, fever and throat pain is present. So when fever and throat pain is present, along with that there is a dry cough. If the cough, assuming that the cough is significantly affecting the individual, it is more in favor of a viral pharyngitis, because I have already told you that in bacterial pharyngitis the cough is minimal or absent. So you can consider the possibility of a viral pharyngitis. Okay. Now, can anything else in the upper airway produce a dry cough? A dry nocturnal cough which is not due to bronchospasm. Dry nocturnal cough. Dry nocturnal cough. Okay, GERD agreed. GERD can cause dry nocturnal cough. Anything else more common? Very common. Okay, paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea can also cause nocturnal cough. Very good, Darshini. Post nasal drip. That is the commonest. Okay. So post nasal drip followed by gastroesophageal reflux disease will be the common reason for, and post nasal drip can occur from sinus infection. Okay. So sinus infection can also produce post nasal drip, and that can be sometimes not associated with any significant nasal symptoms also. Okay. In the upper airway, where is the site of this cough receptors? The upper airway, where are the cough receptors located? Upper airway, I mean nasopharynx and larynx. Upper airway, where is the larynx, pillars and uvula? One is oropharynx. Trachea, okay. Okay. Upper airway generally does not include trachea. Okay, I'll tell the place. It is actually the laryngeal mucosa or the lower pharyngeal mucosa. So the lower pharyngeal mucosa and the laryngeal mucosa are the place where the cough receptors are present. Okay. So the third scenario is we'll put it as viral pharyngitis. Okay. Patient 4. So 23-year-old female, duration is 2 days. Acute in onset, it is progressive. The cough is productive but scanty, mucoid in consistency but yellow. It is not foul smelling, mixed with blood. She could not tell any aggravating factors, relieved by cough syrup, and fever and right-sided chest pain is also present. So what could be the explanation for the fourth case? Pneumonia. What type of pneumonia? Bacterial pneumonia. So what pathology? What pathology? Pneumonia with pleural inflammation. Roshini has replied, pneumonia with pleural inflammation. Lobar consolidation. Very good, Rashika. Fine. So what explains the chest pain? What explains the chest pain? Pleurisy. Very good. So basically, this scenario looks like it is pleurisy. Okay. So what will be the finding in acute bronchitis? Acute bronchitis. How will acute bronchitis differ from patient 4? Acute bronchitis can also occur due to viral and bacterial infection. Okay. So before that, I'll answer. Fine. See, in viral bronchitis, basically there will be inflammation in the bronchi only. Okay. So usually bronchitis, the amount of sputum production will be very scanty, and usually it will not be associated with any pleurisy. Okay. And it will mimic more like a bronchial asthma. Acute bronchitis mimics more like a bronchial asthma, dry cough, often scanty sputum, and not associated with any pleural inflammation. Okay. Now, Spriti has just raised one question. What do you mean by lobar consolidation? See, lobar consolidation, do you remember reading this consolidation and pathology in anywhere? Any stages of consolidation in pathology? Can you recollect 4 stages? Can you recollect the 4 stages? What is the first stage? What is the first stage in lobar consolidation? Okay, Roshini has given the answer as congestion. Okay, so congestion is the first stage. So basically what happens when the bacteria comes into the lung, normally your primary defenses and secondary defenses. So basically it will be the neutrophils and macrophages which will ensure that the bacteria is contained. Sometimes what happens, the bacteria will not be contained. So and the bacteria will invade the lung tissue, it will start multiplying. So when the bacterial load increases, what happens, there will be a very acute recruitment of neutrophils. So this is what we call it as exudates. So that stage is called congestion because the lobe of the lung is fully flooded by all the WBCs. So that is the congestion. So then what happens? The congestion stage moves on to red hepatization. This is because the entire lung becomes like a liver because the alveolus is filled with exudates, all the bacterial cells which has reacted with the pathogen exudates. So that is red hepatization. So then after that what will happen? The process will heal gradually and it will change into third change into gray hepatization, where all the active congestion is beginning to resolve. And the last stage is called resolution. Okay, resolution, where it will resolve and the normal lung will replace. Okay, so that is what is called lobar consolidation. So lobar consolidation is typical pathological process which occurs in bacterial pneumonia. Smriti, is it right? Have you got the answer for what do you mean by lobar consolidation? Okay. Now there is one more thing which has been raised for patient 3. Why can't it be acute bronchitis? So one person has raised it. Satyanarayanan has raised that why could the third one be acute bronchitis? It is possible. So you can give, see, sometimes acute bronchitis will follow acute pharyngitis. So you can also consider the possibility of acute bronchitis, that is acute pharyngitis getting complicated by an acute bronchitis. Okay, so you can add that also. Fine. Now, before going into the next 4 scenario, let me just quickly go into the clinical signs equivalent. Okay, clinical signs equivalent, like inspection, palpation, percussion, auscultation. In the first scenario, already we thought it was chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So in this patient, on inspection, what finding you may have? So history is suggestive of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. I'm talking about patient 1. Patient 1, when you examine the patient, what finding you may have on inspection? Cyanosis, tachypnea, chest symmetry, barrel shaped chest, accessory muscle use, tobacco stain on teeth. Okay, so I'm asking about proper respiratory examination itself. Indrawing of what? Rahul Kumar, pursed lip breathing, cyanosis, tripod position, pectus carinatum. On inspection, accessory muscle use. Anything other than that? Anything other than that? Pink puffer. Okay, JVP will be elevated. So one answer is JVP, but JVP will be elevated only if it is complicated by right heart failure. Trachea deviated. One answer is trachea deviated. Chest shape. Okay, so I'll take one by one. See, basically in the inspection of the respiratory system, can you quickly tell what are things you are supposed to look for? Inspection of the respiratory system. What are the things you are supposed to look for? A complete list I want. Shape symmetry is only a part of it. A complete list of chest shape, symmetry, tracheal position. Tracheal axillary muscle, shape symmetry, trachea intercostal muscles. All the quadrant move equally. Okay. Okay. See, generally in inspection, I'll give you an outline. Just divide them into clear objectives. First objective in inspection is to look at the bony environment of the lung. So bony environment, you will be looking at shape of the chest. If the chest is bilaterally symmetrical, is there any sternal deformity, like if the sternum is depressed or if the sternum is projected out, or if there is any spinal deformity in the form of kyphosis or scoliosis. So first objective of inspection is look at the bony environment. So shape of the chest, symmetry of the chest. is there any depression or projection of the sternum? In other words, you're looking for pectus excavatum or pectus carinatum. If the spine bend is there, kyphosis or scoliosis. Okay. Now, why the bony environment should be seen first? Why should the bony environment be seen first? Roshni has replied, lung expansion. What do you mean by why? How does lung pathology for equal movement with respiration? Janvi Shankar has mentioned restriction of the lungs. Very good. So when there is a severe bony deformity, for example, if the patient has severe kyphosis or if the patient has severe scoliosis, so that will affect the expansion of the lung. So that is why we are looking at the bony environment first. Okay. Second thing is mediastinal position. So for mediastinal position, you will look at the tracheal position and you will look at the apical impulse. Okay, you look at the tracheal position and the apical impulse. So I'm not going into the technique. The technique I'll take at a separate class. So second objective is to look at the mediastinal position. Third objective is to look at the volume status of the lung. Volume status of the lung. Can you tell me few lung conditions where the volume of the lung decreases? Volume of fibrosis, collapse. Very good. So fibrosis and collapse are two situations where the volume of the thorax, I think I asked you a wrong question. It's not the lung, volume of the thorax. Okay, volume of the thorax increases. Okay. So can you think of any condition where the volume increases? Volume increases. Emphysema, very good. In emphysema, the volume increases. In pneumothorax, the volume increases. Okay. What happens in pleural effusion? What happens to the volume of the thorax in pleural effusion? Okay. So it depends. Okay. Now, if the pleural effusion, it can be variable. It can be variable. Okay. So in pleural effusion, if the pleural fluid increases, but it does not collapse the underlying lung, because when the fluid accumulates, it will press the underlying lung. So if the pleural fluid increases significantly, but it does not collapse the underlying lung, then it causes increase in the lung wall. Okay. But when it causes a underlying collapse, then it may not change the lung wall. Okay, it is variable. So the third objective is to look for change in the lung volume. So what you see is that you see if there is a supraclavicular hollowness, infraclavicular hollowness, that is indication of volume loss. If there is any drooping of the shoulder, is there any winging of the scapula, is there any intercostal indrawing? Okay, so I'll repeat it again. What you look for volume loss is supraclavicular hollowness, infraclavicular hollowness, drooping of the shoulder, winging of the scapula, and the indrawing of the intercostal space. While for increase in the volume, you look at supraclavicular fullness, infraclavicular fullness, and intercostal fullness. Three things: supraclavicular fullness, infraclavicular fullness, and intercostal fullness. Is it clear what you need to look for when there is volume loss, and what will be the finding if there is increase in the volume? So decrease in the thoracic volume, increase in the thoracic volume. Is it clear on what to look for? Okay. Okay. See, winging of scapula, Smriti has raised a question that winging of the scapula is basically a paralysis of the serratus anterior. Okay. Now, winging, when there is severe volume loss of the lung cage will actually shrink. So it will cause what is called a pseudo winging, not a classical winging. But if you look at the medial margin of the scapula, it will be very prominent. Okay, it's not the classical winging which you get in the neurological paralysis. So this is a pseudo winging which you get in as a result of severe wasting of the underlying thoracic cage. Smriti, is it clear? Your doubt on? Okay. So now, so three objectives I have told you. First objective is to look for the bony environment of the lung. Second objective is to look at the mediastinal position, apical impulse and trachea. Third is volume status of the lung. Fourth is expansion of the lung. Okay. So how is the lung expanding on both sides? So that is the fourth objective. Fifth objective is status of the skin. So in this you will see if there is any scar, if there is any dilated vein, if there is any visible pulsation, is there any sinuses. Okay. So this is the status of the skin where you look for if there is any scars, if there is any dilated veins, visible pulsation, or if there is any scars or sinus. That is a fifth objective. So for patient number 1 who has a COPD, when you look at the patient, the chest wall, the anterior posterior diameter may be increased compared to the transverse diameter. So the barrel shaped chest is AP diameter and the transverse diameter will be equal. So ratio will be equal. That is why you get a barrel shaped chest. So in COPD, you can get an AP diameter which is increased. That is one. So the shape of the chest may look abnormal. In chronic bronchitis, bilateral symmetry is maintained. Bilateral symmetry is maintained, and it by itself does not cause any spine deformity or sternal deformity. Sternum may be slightly pushed outside. The trachea will be in midline. What will happen to the apical impulse in chronic bronchitis and also in emphysema? What happens to the apical impulse? See, the lung is inflated. So when the lung is inflated, what will happen to the apical impulse? Not well seen. Roshini, good. So you may not be able to see the apical impulse because the lung will get inflated and it will not allow you to see the. So generally it is undisplaced, or it may come medial because of the tubular heart, but generally it is difficult to see the apical impulse in chronic bronchitis patients. Okay. So chest expansion will be decreased on both sides. Chest expansion will be decreased on both sides. And the next characteristic, I'll just tell the characteristic finding alone. When you percuss, the resonance may be hyper resonant. Breath sounds may be decreased. No bronchial breath sounds will be heard. And auscultation, you may appreciate crackles and wheeze. Okay, so these are the findings you may get in COPD. Now, how does the second case we thought was bronchial asthma? Okay, so bronchial asthma, what will be the finding? How does the examination of the respiratory system differ in bronchial asthma? Examination of the respiratory system in bronchial asthma, how does it differ from patient 2? Try to put the same order. I have given you the 5 components. You put the entire thing, put the entire thing. For example, bony environment, mediastinal position, volume status, expansion of the chest, status of the skin. So I'll give some time, you can try. So most of you have put everything will be normal. So what will be the abnormality? Most of you have put everything as normal. So see, Gayatri feels that V's will be the only finding. Okay, very good. Shruti has put it as it depends on the severity. So generally in bronchial asthma, examination will be, Harini has put bone and apical impulse normal, lung expansion normal, breath sounds normal, V's present. Okay. So Harini feels that V's will be the only abnormal finding, which is true. Most of the times, the only finding you will have in bronchial asthma is a bilateral polyphonic V's and maybe crackles. Most of the other will be normal, but there is an exception. So in patients with long-standing bronchial asthma, when they have long-standing bronchial asthma, then they may start develop finding which is similar to COPD. Okay, so in general, only auscultatory finding will be abnormal, but when the severity increases, they may start to develop findings which are similar to bronchial asthma. Okay, patient 3. Patient 3, I'll tell you the answer because our diagnosis is just pharyngitis. So only finding you will hear will be the local examination. Respiratory system examination will be normal. Okay, so going to patient 4. Patient number 4, what will be the physical finding? Patient number 4, we thought it was lobar consolidation. The cough is suggestive of a lobar consolidation. So you may get a, again follow the same order. Roshini, follow the same order. Inspection. On inspection, any finding will be there. Inspection in Rashika feels that there will be tracheal deviation, pleurisy and dullness. Harini feels that decreased expansion will also be there. Okay. Okay. So I'll give the answer first. See, basically what happens in lobar consolidation, a part of the lung becomes like a liver. Okay, part of the lung becomes like a liver. And this part of the lung which becomes like a liver will not cause any pushing effect or pulling effect on the trachea. Okay. So on inspection, the only finding you will have will be decreased in the chest expansion. For example, if the right lower lobe has undergone consolidation, right lower lobe consolidation, the right lower part of the lung will not move properly. So there will be impaired chest expansion in the infrascapular region. So on inspection, the only finding you will have will be impaired chest expansion on the affected side. Trachea will be in midline. It will not cause any effect on the tracheal position. Okay. Now when you do the palpation, again the chest expansion will be affected. But when you percuss, the percussion note may be dull or impaired. It will be dull or impaired. And when you auscultate, they may have decreased in the breath sounds. They can have what is called bronchial breath sounds, especially the tubular variety. And pleural rub may be present if it is associated with pleurisy. Okay. So on inspection, decrease in the chest expansion, trachea is in midline. On percussion, you will have what is called a dullness or impaired percussion note. Auscultation, you will have decreased breath sounds, or you may have bronchial breathing, or you may have pleural rub. One more thing is called vocal resonance. Okay, vocal resonance. Have you heard of this vocal resonance? Vocal resonance. What is that vocal resonance? Okay, Rashika has raised. If won't there be a deviation if there is a pleural effusion? Now, if there is a pleural effusion which is moderate, then it will deviate. We are talking about only pleurisy. Resonance on your stethoscope. On auscultation, patient asked to say 1. So after that, okay, the Harini says that patient is asked to say 1 and we will auscultate. So what is that you will look for? Decreased compared to what? Okay. Anyway, I'll elaborate the vocal resonance. See, basically vocal resonance is filtration of certain frequencies which are produced at the larynx by the lung. I'll just tell it in a simple way. I'll take it in elaboration at a later point of time. So when you tell 1 at a pharyngeal level, 2 set of frequencies will be produced. But when it goes through the lung will filter off 1 set of frequency. So when what you hear at the chest wall will be less louder than what you hear at the larynx. But when the lung is hepatized, when the lung is consolidated, so what will happen? That will lead on to conduction of both the frequencies. So that is called vocal resonance. Okay. So vocal resonance will be increased in lung consolidation. Yes, it's not conduction. When it becomes solids, when it becomes vocal, when it becomes a solid like a liver, it is not a conduction of sound. Actually, it's not the correct explanation. Lung which becomes like a liver fails to filter the frequencies. So when it does not filter the frequency, both the frequencies will be transmitted to the chest wall. So it will appear as if it is loud. The resonance and fremetus are same. Vocal fremetus is when you keep your hand. Vocal resonance is when you keep your stethoscope. But generally in clinical practice, we go by vocal resonance. What you hear only we go by. Okay. So these will be the finding in scenario number 4. So I am going on to the next 4 scenario. So patient 5, 58-year-old smoker, 3 months is having cough, which is gradual onset progressive. 5 episode of frank hemoptysis is there. It's predominantly dry cough, no aggravating factors, and there is loss of weight and loss of appetite. So what could be the diagnosis for patient number 5? Okay, it's a clear explanation that he has risk factor smoking, reasonably sudden onset, gradual onset, progressive cough, frank hemoptysis, loss of weight and loss of appetite. So here, what finding you may have on examination? What finding you may have on examination? So you are suspecting a cavity. So when you suspect a cavity, primary lung finding, overall he may have wasting, but primary lung finding, what he may have? Okay. See, generally mediastinal shift. Okay. So generally bronchogenic carcinoma will not cause any fibrosis. Okay. So it will not cause any mediastinal shift. So it will only cause what is called a signs of cavity. So let's assume there is a cavity in the right upper lobe region, superficial cavity in the right upper lobe region. So when you percuss at that site, it may be more resonant, hyper resonant, which is focal, and you may have bronchial breathing at the place of cavity. Okay. So Generally, lung cavities do not produce much sign except for bronchial breathing and a focal hyperresoning. Can metastasis to lung cause the same finding? No. Stephen has raised that metastasis is a mass lesion. Okay, it's a mass lesion, and that findings is more complicated and variable. So let me not go into that as of now. I'll take the signs of metastasis when we go for more detailed examination. Jyotsna has asked, how does consolidation cavity produce increased resonance? Okay. See, cavity I told not the vocal resonance, I told the percussion resonance. Percussion resonance. Okay. Smriti has asked a question, why can't this be TB or HIV? Yes, you can also entertain the possibility of a tuberculosis. Agreed. So you can even tell, but generally when there is a so much of frank hypoptysis, more of a dry cough, we consider the possibility of bronchogenic carcinoma, but TB is also in the differential diagnosis. Okay, I think the earlier question, Jyotsna, consolidation and cavity, I meant the percussion resonance. Okay, going into the, yes, 3 months. Yes, bronchogenic carcinoma can have an acute presentation of 3 months. The symptom may get unmasked only in 3 months. Okay, patient number 6, 19-year-old female, 2 months duration, gradual onset, static cough, produces 3 teaspoons per day, mucoid, white, not foul smelling, occasionally blood stain, no aggravating factor, no relieving factor, fever, loss of weight and loss of appetite. So what can this be? Patient number 6. Okay, so this young female, 2 months, fever, loss of weight, loss of appetite, this is characteristic of tuberculosis. Okay, now when does tuberculosis produce? Yes, it can be static. The cough can be static. So when does tuberculosis cause abnormal clinical signs? See, most tuberculosis patient, the only finding you will have will be crackles, focal crackles or bilateral crackles. When they cause cavity, good. When the tuberculosis is complicated by cavitation, it causes clinical signs. Then what other complication of TB causes clinical signs? Miliary TB does not cause clinical sign. It's a silent TB actually. Only X-ray you find out. Okay, when it is complicated by pleural effusion, agreed. When it is complicated by bronchiectasis, Surya, agreed. One more. When it is complicated by fibrosis, okay, or consolidation, you can get TB consolidation also. So there are few situations. So generally, TB per se, in the absence of pleural effusion, in the absence of consolidation, the absence of cavitation, it does not cause much of a sign. Okay, going to patient number 7. This is a quite easy scenario. 22-year-old male, 3 weeks of cough, gradual onset, progressive, dry, having breathlessness and right-sided chest pain in the first 4 days. Patient number 7. What could be the finding? Very good. It is a pleural effusion. We have already discussed this. See, the clue is clearly there. Gradual onset, progressive cough, which is predominantly dry. Patient is having breathlessness and right-sided chest pain for the first 4 days. So it is pleurisy. This feature suggestive of pleural effusion. Now, what will be the signs in this patient? Patient 7. What will be the sign? What will be the sign in pleural effusion? Start from inspection. Shruti, start from inspection. Will there be any inspectory finding? Reduced expansion. Very good. So first thing on the right side, there will be decrease in the chest expansion. Okay. So they may be fullness of the intercostal space. Okay, if the effusion is massive, there may be fullness of the intercostal space. Trachea will be shifted to which side? Trachea will be shifted to left. Okay, trachea will be shifted to opposite side. Then on percussion, what will be the percussion note? Percussion note. Percussion note will be stony dull. Very good. Percussion note will be stony dull. It's not dull. See, when will you tell stony dull? What is the difference between dullness and stony dullness? Some of you have put dullness. That's why I'm asking that question. Yes, your finger hurts. So when you percuss, you will feel as if you are tapping on a stone. So you will the pleximeter finger. This is the pleximeter finger. This is the plexar. Plexar is hammer. So this is the pleximeter. So plexar, when you hit on the pleximeter finger will pain. So that is what is stony dullness. And when you auscultate, you will have decreased or absent breath sounds. Okay. So other auscultatory finding, I am not going into it as of now. We'll move to the last scenario before I go to the last thing. Patient 8, 35-year-old who was working in a quarry worker, 6 months, gradual progressive dry cough, aggravated on exertion, and the patient is also having breathlessness on exertion. So what could be the interstitial lung disease? Very good. So again, already I told you, interstitial lung disease produces dry cough. He has a risk factor, exposure to coal or a product of mining. So this is an interstitial lung disease. Now what finding you will get in interstitial lung disease? This looks like early interstitial lung disease. Okay, 6 months is the duration. 6 months is the duration. So what will be the finding in early interstitial lung disease? Restricted lung movements. Smriti has answered restricted lung movements. Early interstitial lung disease. Okay, inspection will be normal. Very good. Normal findings. Okay. Early interstitial lung disease, you may have an absolutely normal respiratory examination. Okay, early interstitial lung disease, only symptom will be present. Examination could be absolutely normal. So that is what you need to remember. It takes time for the interstitial lung disease to produce signs. So there will be dramatic symptom, but no signs on examination in early interstitial lung disease. Okay. So now I will go to the quiz. So quiz, I will go to the quiz now. Okay, I'll start with the questions now. Quiz. Cough is usually dry in the following condition. Okay, so the answer is pharyngitis, pleural effusion, and early interstitial lung disease. In bronchiectasis, you will have a productive cough. So the next question is occupation associated with interstitial lung disease is farming because they get exposed to fungal spores. Mining, again they are exposed to significant amount of chemical dust. Fishing is not a risk factor for interstitial lung disease, and weaving of silk is also not a risk factor, though you may consider it. It's plus or minus. Weaving of silk is not usually a risk factor for interstitial lung disease. Next question. Identify the correct match for volume of hemoptysis. The correct match is acute bronchitis, scanty hemoptysis mixed with sputum, but acute bronchitis mostly hemoptysis is rare. Why cannot the fibers in weaving cause ILD? Chandani has raised a question. That's what I told you. Generally, silk per se, when silk is woven, the dust particle which comes is actually very less. Okay, so that's why silk is not associated with interstitial lung disease, but it may cause. If they are going to use cotton also in silk weaving, it may cause. Okay, emphysema does not cause hemoptysis. You have to remember that. And cavity causes frank hemoptysis of moderate to massive quantity. Pleurisy also does not cause hemoptysis. Next question, correct match for color of sputum. Pink frothy sputum is pulmonary edema. Green sputum is pseudomonas. Black sputum is fungal infection like aspergillus or mucor. Bacterial infection is usually white, it's usually yellow, but white sputum is not indicative of bacterial infection. Okay, foul smelling sputum indicates necrotizing pneumonia. Just remember that. So bronchial asthma, it's never foul smelling. Viral pneumonia, it is never foul smelling. Pleural effusion, it is usually dry. Okay. So acute onset chest pain followed by fish meal causes hypersensitivity pneumonitis. Now I am talking about fishing occupation per se. Occupation per se. Okay. So acute onset chest pain followed by cough and breathlessness can occur in two conditions. We have already discussed it. One is tension pneumothorax, another is pulmonary embolism. Okay, so one is tension pneumothorax, another is pulmonary embolism. Two situations where cough will be followed by breathlessness. Can it be exacerbated asthma? Yes, it can be acute severe asthma, not ordinary bronchial asthma, but usually in bronchial asthma exacerbation, you will not cause chest pain. So that is why I have not put bronchial asthma, because bronchial asthma does not cause acute chest pain. We are talking about chest pain followed by pulmonary tuberculosis should be suspected if fever and cough last for more than 2 weeks. It is revised now. Himalini raised the question, pulmonary embolism presents with hemoptysis. Yes, pulmonary can present with hemoptysis. Pulmonary tuberculosis is now 2 weeks. It's not the 4 weeks which you used to follow earlier. You should suspect pulmonary tuberculosis when the duration of symptom crosses 2 weeks. Now, measles and other childhood exanthematous fevers are risk factors for bronchiectasis. There was one question which was put by Sri Gayatri. In question of children with measles, their predisposition to bronchiectasis, why is it so? And in this case, predisposed immunocompromise. Okay. See, why does measles cause bronchiectasis? Measles or exanthematous fever, why does it cause bronchiectasis? Anybody want to try? What is the mechanism? Okay. See, measles and other exanthematous fevers will cause inflammation of the airway during the initial infection. Okay. Inflammation of the airway. So once the inflammation of the airway resolves, unfortunately, these measles and other exanthematous fevers, when they produce what is called pneumonitis or bronchiolitis, when they resolve, there is damage to the wall of the airway. So since it affects the wall of the airway, it started the elastic recoil capability goes on, and then it becomes distended and they lead on to bronchiectasis. So basically, it is due to the damage done to the wall of the smaller airway. It leads on to that. Okay, ciliary motility is not the mechanism. Okay, so precipitating factor for acute exacerbation bronchial asthma is cold air, exercise, and pollen exposure to pollen. Rice is not a precipitating factor. So last question is chest pain aggravated by inspiration can occur due to pleural effusion and costochondritis. So this also already we have discussed in the past. Okay, so before I close the class, I just want to have some more plan. See, what I personally feel that the history part, you people are reasonably okay. So what I hear from other faculty also, you are reasonably okay in the history part. So we'll have one more respiratory system history presentation, the form of case sheet. I think it should be now easy for you. So can one person volunteer between roll number 51 and roll number 100? One person will present a sample a case using COPD as the sample case, like cough with sputum production for 3 months. Okay, Haridev has volunteered. Fine. Haridev will be presenting on Saturday. Haridev can email the okay, you can email me. I'll just put the email again in case if you are so you can email to this. Haridev can email. So one case we will discuss on Saturday. From next week, I'll start on some clinical examination also. Okay. So in which case do we find white sputum? Nikita has raised a question. See, white sputum generally occurs in any benign inflammatory condition like acute bronchitis, which is not infective, viral acute bronchitis, in bronchial asthma, COPD, you get white color sputum. Smithy has raised a question. How to clinically distinguish between consolidation and fibrosis? Volume loss, focal resistance. No, volume loss is not common in consolidation. See, fibrosis is a volume loss condition. Consolidation is not a volume loss condition. Fibrosis will also cause tracheal deviation to the same side. Consolidation will not cause tracheal deviation. So the two clear distinguishing features will be undisplaced trachea and consolidation, shifted trachea or pulled trachea and fibrosis. Okay. Second finding is volume loss in fibrosis, no volume loss in consolidation. Just these two things, you have it in mind. Is that clear, Smriti? Okay, Harini has raised a question on egophony. I'll touch it upon later because that is a little advanced topic. So when we go to two causes of cough followed by breathlessness. Okay, see that question was actually chest pain followed by cough and breathlessness. The question was acute chest pain followed by cough and breathlessness. First is the chest pain, then cough and breathlessness. That is the sequence that occurs in tension pneumothorax and pulmonary embolism. Bronchial asthma, there is no chest pain. Emphysema, there is no chest pain. Okay, so with this I'll close the class. So Saturday we'll discuss one case of cough where we'll discuss the scenarios again. So from then we can go ahead with the subsequent plan. I'll upload the syllabus anyway, so for you to see under. So when you read also, you try to follow the syllabus content. Okay, so with this I am closing the recording. Thanks everyone.